Revealed, the heartwarming secret home I bought, exposing my daughter-in-law's incredible plan for community revival. Jake stood beneath the sagging porch of the old house, its peeling paint and overgrown weeds a stark contrast to the shining memories of laughter and family gatherings that echoed in his mind. At 45, the weight of his world pressed heavy on his shoulders. The house was not just a structure to him. It was a legacy left by his father, something he should cherish. But with each passing month, as bills mounted and uncertainty loomed, Jake grappled with the painful idea of selling it. The thought clawed at him, stirring a mix of pride and despair. He was a veteran who fought for his country and always prided himself on self-sufficiency, but this felt like a battle he wasn't sure he could win. When Emily entered the picture, her youthful spirit breathed new life into the gloomy atmosphere surrounding the house. Jake's daughter-in-law, joyfully curious and endlessly optimistic, saw beauty where he saw decay. As she strolled through the dilapidated rooms, memories from her childhood danced back to her summer afternoons spent in the garden. Laughter stitched into every corner of the yard. "We can fix it, Jake. Look, there's potential here," she exclaimed, her voice bubbling with enthusiasm. But he countered, burdened by the reality of finances. Emily believed in community deeply, passionately. She spotted the forgotten garden in the backyard, hidden beneath sprawled weeds and neglect. It was an oasis waiting to be revived, a place where neighbors once shared recipes, laughter, and stories. Inspired, she envisioned this patch of earth as an anchor for the community, a spot to reignite the bonds that had frayed over time. She soon began to mobilize the neighbors, organizing a fundraiser without Jake's knowledge to transform the house into a community hub. It was a secret plan that sparked bright hope in her heart. But Jake's battle raged on internally. He felt betrayed when he eventually learned of Emily's intentions. How could she take such a monumental decision into her own hands? His pride flared every time he saw the community gathering, working tirelessly on the renovations, their faces alight with anticipation. As the house transformed, his feelings of control slipped farther away. He wanted to scream, to explain the burden he felt. Yet Jake also saw genuine excitement spark in the eyes of neighbors. Joy, laughter, and tears filled the air, reminding him of better days. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the house began to glow with memories and hope, Jake stood at a crossroads. He watched from the shadows as the community gathered for the fundraiser, their faces glowing with the warmth of friendship. Inside, hope waged war with his stubborn pride. Then, an unexpected figure emerged from the crowd, a face from the past, long forgotten, yet ever familiar. Memories of shared laughter and late-night talks came flooding back. Could this person help him understand the true meaning of family and community? Would he let go of his fears and allow the strength of kinship to reshape his burdens, rather than pass them on into the hands of strangers? Jake's heart raced with uncertainty as he faced the vibrant energy radiating around him, knowing that all his questions hung on the cusp of revelation. The figure moved closer, and with every step, Jake could feel his heart pounding in his chest. It was Mary, his childhood friend, the girl who used to build forts out of old sheets in this very backyard. They hadn't spoken in years, and yet the memories flooded back as if they had never lost touch. Mary was different now, more poised, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, but her eyes sparkled with the same mischief and warmth he remembered. "Jake," she called out, beaming as she approached. "I heard you were back in town." "Yeah, I've been around," he stammered, trying to keep his composure, but the flood of emotion tangled his words. "The house. I can't believe what everyone's doing with it," she exclaimed, glancing toward the crowd working fervently on the renovations. "Emily's really got the whole community involved." "More like taken over," Jake muttered half-heartedly. He felt ashamed for his bitterness, but it clawed at him. He was used to holding the reins, and now here was Mary, a reminder of simpler times, making him question everything he thought he wanted. Mary sensed the tension in his voice. Isn't it beautiful? People coming together like this? It's more than just a house, it's a chance for the neighborhood to reconnect. Her excitement was palpable, and for a second, Jake felt that spark she talked about. But it was quickly snuffed out by the reality of his situation. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know if I can handle all this. It's overwhelming. Jake, listen. You've always been the one to carry the burdens, right? But it's okay to lean on others sometimes, Mary replied softly, her voice comforting. This house, it has the potential to be something incredible. You can't just close the door on that. He looked at her, searching for answers in her sincere gaze. What if it all falls apart? What if the community fails? I could lose everything. You could lose everything by letting fear win, she answered, bold and clear. What are you afraid of failing, or of letting people in? His mind whirled with questions. Could he really open up? Allow someone to help him? To fill this house with new memories instead of just preserving the old ones? As if sensing his conflict, Mary continued. You're not alone in this, Jake. Emily believes in this vision. Let her show you how it can work. There's magic in community, in shared hopes. You fought for your country, but now it's time to fight for your home, your family's legacy. The words struck him deep, resonating in the chamber of his heart where hope battled despair. He looked back toward the crowd, once more feeling the energy that buzzed around him, the laughter, the warmth, the love. Maybe he had misjudged things. Just then, Emily spotted him and waved energetically, her smile infectious. Jake, come join us. We need your hands. His heart quivered. Here was the very daughter-in-law he felt pushed him away, yet she stood at the forefront of everything he cared about. Could he really turn his back on that? Taking a deep breath, he asked Mary, what if I took a step forward? What would that mean for us? Mary smiled knowingly as she stepped back. You'll have to find out for yourself. Jake felt a surge of determination. Maybe it was time to stop standing in the shadows of the porch. Maybe it was time to step into the light. As he moved toward Emily and the gathering crowd, a voice in the back of his mind whispered this could be his moment of transformation. But as he got closer, he noticed the growing murmurs and concerned glances among the neighbors. Something was off. And just as he reached out to touch Emily's shoulder, the crowd gasped collectively. What could have possibly happened now? Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach, the thrill of hope shadowed by the uncertainty of what was to come. Was the revival about to take an unexpected turn? Jake's heartbeat quickened as he stepped into the crowd, his fingers nearly brushing against Emily's shoulder. Eyes darted around him. Whispers rippled like a wave. He paused, surveying the faces filled with concern. What is happening? He demanded, voice stealing against his rising anxiety. Emily turned, her smile faltering as she caught sight of him. Jake, you need to see this, she said, her tone shifting from joyful to urgent. She gestured toward a nearby corner of the yard, where a group was huddled around something on the ground. He followed her gaze, an unsettling feeling pulling at his gut. What could possibly have caused such a stir? As he pushed through the throng, apprehension clawed at him. When he reached the circle, a gasp escaped his lips. There, half buried in the dirt, lay an old ornate chest, its surface covered in dust but still glinting with hints of gold. One of the neighbors was carefully pulling it free, and soon it was fully revealed, the hinges creaking in protest. I found this underneath the old decking, said Mr. Keller, a lifelong resident of the neighborhood. Looks like it's been here for a long time. Jake's breath caught. Memories of his grandmother's stories flooded back to him, the tales of a family treasure hidden away during hard times. Is it really? He whispered, disbelief tightening his throat. I think it could be. Emily's eyes sparkled, a mix of fear and excitement dancing across her features. This might be a part of your family's history. It could change everything for us. What do you mean? Jake's mind raced with possibilities. What does it contain? And why is it so important? As they pried the chest open, the scent of age and secrecy wafted out. Inside, wrapped in faded velvet fabric, were several old letters and documents. But more striking were the silver and gold trinkets glinting back at him. Family heirlooms? Perhaps lost pieces of his past, his family's legacy. With trembling hands, Jake reached in to lift a letter. It was yellowed and fragile, rough edges hinting at its age. The moment he unraveled it, he stumbled upon names he hadn't heard in years, relatives both beloved and estranged. "What are you holding?" Mary leaned closer, her breath catching in excitement and concern. "It's from my grandfather," Jake murmured, reading the opening words aloud. "To those who come after me." Each word sent a shockwave through him, spine tingling as the weight of his family's history pressed against his heart. The murmurs around him quieted, absorbed into an electric silence. Everyone leaned in, captivated by the discovery. Secrets unearthed now weighed heavy in the air. What if this is the key to bringing the community together? Emily proposed, eyes wide with possibility. "Jake, these stories could rekindle forgotten bonds. We could gather everyone, celebrate our roots." But a darker thought nagged at him. What if the letters contained more than just memories? What if the truth held complications he wasn't ready to face? The fear of unearthing old grudges, painful history, and long-suppressed emotions loomed in the back of his mind as the crowd buzzed with speculation. Jake felt the urgency to shield his heart. Could he really embrace this new twist? Would revealing his family's past bring peace or chaos? "Let us take this one step at a time," he finally said, his voice steady but laced with apprehension. "I need to read these first." But as he tucked the letters closer to his chest, he couldn't shake the feeling of eyes upon him. Everyone was watching, waiting for his next move. The chest had been uncovered, and along with it, secrets could no longer stay buried. Jake took a deep breath, readying himself for the weight of the past as it crept back into his life. What truths would these letters reveal, and would they bind him closer to his family or shatter the foundation he was hoping to rebuild? Jake's fingers trembled as he held the letter, its delicate paper feeling like the weight of the world between his palms. He was suddenly acutely aware of the crowd, their faces painted with curiosity, concern, and hopeful anticipation. He couldn't help but wonder what they envisioned: an untold fortune? A tale of heroism? As he unfolded the letter fully, the familiar handwriting leapt out at him, sparking a rush of emotion he never anticipated. The words came alive, wrapping around him with every detail, dragging him back to childhood days spent at his grandfather's knee. Charm woven into every tale. "To those who come after me." It began again, and with each sentence, Jake felt a blooming pang in his heart. "What does it say?" Emily's voice cut through the thick air, her eyes wide with eagerness. His throat tightened as he fought back the urge to cry. "It talks about our roots," he began, voice wavering slightly. "The struggles they faced. Family ties that stretched across states. A legacy of resilience." Silence enveloped the crowd, the kind of silence that draws one into a deeper introspection. They were hanging on every word, diving into a shared history that they hadn't known they were connected to. Mary edged closer, her expression softening. "Did they mention anything about how they came together?" Jake nodded slowly, feeling the pressure of the moment. "There are names here, relatives who fought to keep our lineage alive. But there are also whispers of strife." The reasons whispers became shards. A divorce, a falling out. Gasps echoed through the crowd. There was a collective understanding of that pain, one born from familial history. Not every tie was tight, and each revelation could sting. What if these stories could be the bridge? Emily ventured, her voice steady despite the unease brewing around them. "If we brought everyone together, shared these memories, maybe the wounds could begin to heal." "But what if they don't?" Jake replied sharply, a raw edge slicing through his tone. "What if reopening these wounds sets fire to old grudges? Not everyone wants to reconcile. Some would rather bury the past." The air thickened as unspoken worries blended with the caution radiating from him, that a ripple of uncertainty swept through the group. Heads nodded in agreement, yet many faces reflected a yearning for connection, even amid the fear. This uneasy tension left Jake feeling cornered. "What do you think, Jake?" Mrs. Susie asked, pushing her way through the crowd. Her gentle, grandmotherly composure always offered solace. "You're at the center of it. This is your family. You have the key to what could be, both good and bad." He stared back at her, each word igniting a flicker within his heart. He felt torn. The idea of peeling back the layers thrilled him, yet he envisioned heartache that could erupt. "Let us take time." Let me read the letters, Jake replied, gripping the parchment tighter as if it could ward off the doubt creeping into his mind. Perhaps they'll reveal a way forward. Carefully he placed the letter back into the chest, hiding it beneath the velvet cloth once again. Yet not out of reach. In that moment, he felt the tingling weight of all those eyes upon him. The backyard started to feel heavy with the weight of expectation as murmurs resumed, but they were punctuated by a new clarity. Jake realized these stories weren't just his to bear. They belonged to a community intertwined by veins of shared history. The warmth diverted into a spark of determination. Maybe sharing the past wasn't merely about the truth, but building a bridge toward a hopeful future. As he looked over at Emily, her encouraging nod filled him with newfound resolve. All right, he said aloud, grounding himself with a fierce conviction. Let us gather everyone. We need to talk. But in the corner of his mind loomed the question. What would he do when faced with forgotten relatives and buried emotions? The thought sent a ripple of fear down his spine as he stepped back from the crowd, feeling his pulse quicken. Each decision he made would either tear them apart or unite them. But still, one word echoed in his thoughts, growing louder. What if? Jake took a deep breath, the weight of his decision heavy on his chest. He glanced around the gathered faces, finding comfort in their shared anticipation. Perhaps they could find a way to open a door that had long been closed, a path winding through the tangled roots of their family history. Let us do this, he called out, his voice steadying as he stepped back into the center of the crowd. We need to find a place where we can all come together, somewhere that feels safe to share. Emily's face lit up with excitement. What about the old community hall? It's big enough for everyone, and it holds so many memories for us. Jake nodded, impressed by her thought. That sounds perfect. We can set a date, spread the word, and invite everyone to come. A murmur of approval swept through the crowd, igniting a flicker of hope. As they huddled together, discussing arrangements, a sense of unity began to bloom, a realization that they were all stranded on the same ship. Yet amidst the mounting excitement, doubt nibbled at his insides. Would the ones he hoped to reconcile refuse to come? What if they showed up only to take aim at past grievances? He bit his lip, trying to suppress the rising uncertainty. Jake. Mary's voice broke through his thoughts. Are you sure you want to do this? He met her gaze, trying to mask his fear. I have to. I want my family to heal. The murmurs grew quieter as they considered his words. Tension floated in the air. They were all bearing the weight of their stories, the old grievances filling cracks in their relationships that had hardly seen the light of day. Family means making room for tough conversations. Emily finally chimed in, her words like a warm blanket wrapping around them. This could be what we all need. What if healing is just a conversation away? Jake felt a swell of emotion, a mix of pride and fear coiling in his chest. Yet the images of past hurt lingered like shadows. He nodded, his voice gathering strength. You're right. But let us also be prepared. We can't expect this to be easy. We need to approach every story with compassion. He caught glances of hesitance among the crowd, but also a glimmer of cooperation among his closest kin. Then, the mood shifted, hope slipping its way back into their hearts. Then let us make it a gathering, Mrs. Susie suggested. A celebration of what holds us together. Yes. Emily sprang into action. Like a potluck. We'll all bring our favorite dishes. It'll be a celebration. A chance to remember the good. We'll call it the reunion of stories. Laughter erupted, easing the tension. Jake felt a rush of warmth flood his veins. The weight lifting slightly as ideas bounced around, further fueling the flame of hope in his heart. Okay, let us do that then. Jake joined in the laughter, the flicker of joy igniting in the depths of his thoughts. But how do we reach out to those who might still be hurting? As the crowd began brainstorming, his mind raced again. He thought of Uncle Pete, estranged for years. Would he be willing to come? Or Aunt Mary, who hadn't he spoken to the family in a decade? Every name felt like a push and pull between nostalgia and apprehension. Suddenly a thought struck him, as if a bolt of lightning had pierced through the fog of uncertainty. What if we each shared one story from the past before the gathering? A way to open up the lines of communication? Silence fell, their eyes meeting his. Would that work? Jake's heart raced as he shared the thought. A slow smile grew on Emily's face as excitement filled the air around them. Yes. That way, we have something to bridge right to the reunion. As the crowd buzzed with energy, Jake felt something shift within him, an understanding that no matter how far apart they had drifted, they were still bound by their history. This shared moment of planning felt transformative, as if they were sculpting an intricate tapestry woven from the threads of their lives. As they began making plans, a weight of purpose settled into his bones. Only then, a quiet voice whispered through his thoughts, reminding him of the looming question. Were they truly ready to face the stories that would emerge? With a small flinch, he prepared himself for what lay ahead, knowing one truth remained dominant in his mind: it wasn't just the family reunion that they sought to mend. It was the heart of their family itself, waiting to be unearthed. What would those stories reveal about them all? The next few days felt like a whirlwind for Jake. The community hall was booked for the following Saturday, and the energy surged as he and the family began preparing for the reunion of stories. Each of them committed to bringing dishes that carried personal significance, memories sealed in flavors. Jake smiled at the thought of Aunt Mary's apple pie, her secret recipe always a hit at family gatherings from years past. But amidst the vibrant planning, a loop of anxiety tightened around his chest. The idea of sharing stories felt empowering but daunting. The flood of emotions that came with each narrative weighed heavily. Would they be able to maintain the fragile peace they had built? What if the stories only fanned the flames of long-buried conflict? "Jake, are you okay?" Emily asked one evening when they were alone, folding napkins with care. He sighed, the worry spilling out. "I just keep thinking about Uncle Pete. What if he refuses to come? It's been years since anyone spoke to him." Emily nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "What if you reach out to him, just to see? It might be a good start, clarifying that we want him there, that he has missed." Jake rubbed the back of his neck, aspiring to muster courage. "You're right. I owe him that." Taking a deep breath, he picked up his phone, fingers hovering over Uncle Pete's name. The call felt heavier than it should. Finally, he pressed dial, heart racing in the static silence. Each ring echoed his self-doubt. "Jake, is that you?" Uncle Pete's voice came through, deeper and laced with frost. "Yeah, it's me." Jake hesitated, the weight of the years lost clamoring in his throat. "I wanted to invite you to a family reunion. We're hoping everyone can come together and share some stories. It's been too long." A pause stretched, pregnant with anticipation. "I don't know, Jake. I'm not sure I belong there anymore." "Of course you do," Jake urged, his voice trembling with fervor. "This gathering isn't about the past but healing. About remembering what has held us together all these years." There was a hitch in Uncle Pete's breath. "I haven't been a part of that family for so long. Do they even want me there?" "Yes, they do," Jake replied firmly. "You need to know that. We all want to mend what has been broken." "I'll think about it," Uncle Pete finally said. The weight of the call left Jake feeling both buoyed and uncertain. At least he had reached out. As the days wore on, the pile of culinary delights grew in Emily's kitchen, fragrant with nostalgic reminders. The community hall transformed from an empty shell into a warm space that shimmered with a mix of laughter and apprehension. On the day of the reunion, Jake stood outside the hall, nervousness squeezing his stomach thin. Faces streamed in, laughter weaving through the air like a melody, but all he could focus on was the lingering silence of the absent. Where was Uncle Pete? Just as he was about to lose hope, an older figure appeared in the distance. Heart-pounding, Jake recognized him immediately. Uncle Pete. His hands were shoved into worn pockets, a cautious yet curious look washing over his face. "Jake," he called, and suddenly, laughter, nervousness, and warmth swirled all at once. "Uncle Pete!" Jake exclaimed, rushing over, meeting him halfway. "I'm so glad you came." Proudly, he ushered Uncle Pete inside, every second crackling with potential. The room filled with faces from the past, gathering to share their stories. Thick strands of tension began to dissolve, warmth spreading with each conversation. As Jake watched Uncle Pete take in the wide-eyed surprises and happy faces, he realized they might truly be on the brink of something good. But one thought flickered in his mind. Poised like a whispered secret, what stories would rise from those gathered around them? And who would dare uncover the truths that could either heal or fracture this family once more? Jake could feel the evening pulling them closer, emotions tight enough to burst. This reunion was just the beginning, the first step into the heart of what they all needed to face. Would they have the strength to embrace it? As laughter mingled with memories and stories began to emerge, he braced himself for the revelations that were surely about to unfold. The aroma of home-cooked meals enveloped the hall like a warm blanket, and laughter danced through the air, blending with the enthusiasm of old friends and relatives catching up. Jake could feel the pulse of connection. Yet his mind lingered on the stories that would soon be told. Would the evening flow seamlessly, or would the currents of the past disrupt them again? As Jake stood, soaking in the warmth of the crowd, Emily joined him. "This is incredible," she said, her eyes shining with joy. "Look at everyone." "Yeah, but I just can't shake the feeling that we're on the edge of something." Jake ran a hand through his hair, anxiety flickering like butterflies in his stomach. "Just focus on the positive," she encouraged, her voice light. "You brought everyone together, Jake. The fact that Uncle Pete is here, it's a huge step." Before he could respond, Aunt Mary emerged from the crowd, her arms laden with a large platter of her famous apple pie. "What do you think, Jake?" she asked, a twinkle in her eye. "Ready to kick this off?" He forced a smile, though unease churned inside him. "Yeah, let us get started. But I think we should hear from Uncle Pete first." Mary nodded, sensing his concern. "I think that's a great idea. His story, well, it might just be the heart of what we need to hear tonight." Moments later, the buzzing noise of chatter quieted down, and Jake stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Thank you all for coming, for being here tonight. It means the world to see everyone together again." He paused, glancing at Uncle Pete, whose expression was a mix of apprehension and resolve. "We've all faced troubles in the past, and tonight is about healing and remembering what connects us. Uncle Pete, would you like to start?" The room swelled with anticipation as everyone turned toward Uncle Pete, the whispers swirling like a gentle breeze. He hesitated, eyes darting toward the familiar faces, then finally nodded slowly. "Sure, I'll try my best," he said, adjusting his posture as he stood. The memories pulled at him, their shadows long and intertwined. "When I think about what brought us here, I recall hugs and laughter and too many fights." A chuckle broke through the tension, eliciting giggles from the younger cousins. But as he continued, Jake could see the shades of pain flicker in his uncle's eyes. "I left because I thought it was the best choice for everyone. I was too stubborn to see the hurt I caused, and I forgot how much I missed each of you." His voice trembled, words thick with regret. Jake felt the urge to reach out, to assure him that all was forgiven. But Uncle Pete kept speaking, unraveling stories from years long gone, weaving them carefully into the fabric of their family history. The laughter shifted to awe as everyone leaned in, drawn into the stories of birthdays, forgotten toys, and the way a family could grow apart. Jake saw tears glimmer in Aunt Mary's eyes as she remembered those brighter days. Each vignette brought back snippets of nostalgia, a collage of emotions painting the bare walls beneath the lights. "Life doesn't always go as planned," Uncle Pete said finally. "But I've realized it's family that matters most." He glanced at Jake, and a soft smile flickered with an unspoken understanding. A wave of warmth washed over Jake, an assurance flickering in his heart. Maybe this was a healing moment, a crucial step toward rekindling bonds thought lost. "Thank you, Uncle Pete," he said, voice steady. "We've missed you." Cheers erupted from the crowd, a chorus of voices affirming what lay deep in their hearts. Aunt Mary placed her hand on Uncle Pete's shoulder, grounding them both. But as Jake wandered through the hall, soaking in the camaraderie, a chilling thought crossed his mind. What if Pete's stories unearthed far more than just nostalgia? What if they revealed long-buried secrets threatening to change everything they had built tonight? With his heart racing from both excitement and fear, Jake knew this was just the beginning of many truths yet to emerge. Would revelations unite them or tear them apart? Jake stood by the dessert table, his fingers nervously tracing the edges of the empty pie plate Aunt Mary had set down. The laughter around him felt distant, a soundtrack to the storm brewing in his mind. Every smile exchange seemed laced with an undercurrent he couldn't quite grasp. As conversations flowed, Jake caught snippets of laughter and warmth drifting through the air. Yet his heart hammered against the cage of his ribs. What secrets were lurking just beneath the surface? Would Uncle Pete's stories open wounds instead of healing them? Emily approached again, her face radiant. You've done an amazing job tonight, Jake. Look at the way everyone is connecting. He managed a smile, but the joy she saw in him faltered. I hope it stays that way. What if? Emily echoed, her brows furrowing in concern. Jake shook his head, dismissing her words. Forget it. Let us just enjoy this moment. He forced himself to breathe, to engage with the vibrant energy around him. Just then the door creaked open, interrupting the flow of laughter. Jake turned, the sight of his sister Nora stepping through the threshold making his pulse quicken. She had a way of capturing attention without uttering a single word. The room quieted, heads turning as if an unspoken command had been issued. Sorry I'm late, Nora declared, her voice bright and unapologetic. She swept through the room, hugging family members as she made her way toward Jake. I couldn't miss dinner for the world, especially with everyone gathered. Glad you made it, Jake replied, relief flooding through him. But his moment of ease was short-lived. Nora's eyes sparkled with the kind of mischief that set his nerves alight. You have no idea what I just heard. It's about Uncle Pete. Jake's stomach dropped. What did you hear? Oh, just a little gossip here and there, she replied, a sly grin curling her lips. Seems like the past might have some surprises for us. Before he could respond, she darted toward the kitchen, leaving him void of thoughts and filled with questions. Struggling against a rising tide of dread, Jake searched for Uncle Pete in the crowd. The stories had only just begun, yet he felt a shift in the atmosphere. Something unsaid lingered in the corners of the room. The sounds of utensils clinking against plates suddenly felt heavier, each tinkle echoing with secrets. And then Abby, one of his younger cousins, tugged at his sleeve. Jake, can we tell Uncle Pete the story about the tree house? A small grin broke through his unease. The childhood memory was a light in the gathering gloom, a shared adventure that felt safe. Sure, but let us make sure everyone hears it. As they moved through the crowd to gather attention, Jake felt reassurance and excitement intermingling in his chest. Hey everyone, he called, commanding the attention of the room. Remember that time we all tried to build a tree house? Laughter rumbled through the crowd, filling the hall once more, but Jake couldn't shake the knot in his stomach. As playful banter ensued, he caught a glimpse of Uncle Pete withdrawing to the corner, a glimmer of worry shadowing his face. There was so much left unspoken, and yet here they were, laughing, joking, mending the past. Jake's hope flickered, balancing on a tightrope of uncertainty. He turned back to the group, his heart racing. Amid the laughter that enveloped him, a sobering realization struck. Would sharing cherished memories be enough to bridge the gap of what had been? The laughter faded into the background as Jake's thoughts spiraled into chaos. What awaited them in the shadows of their collective history? Before he could frame another thought, the lights flickered, drawing every eye to the kitchen door that swung open once more. What happened next could either bind them closer or spell disaster. The question hung heavy in the air, waiting for an answer. Would it be a night of healing, or one of unearthing heartbreak? A hush fell over the room as the kitchen door opened wider, revealing a silhouette more imposing than Jake expected. Uncle Pete filled the doorway, his lips pressed tightly together, brows knitted with concentration. For a brief moment, he seemed to hesitate, as though weighing his entry into the gathering against whatever turmoil he harbored inside. Nora, sensing the shift in energy, nudged her brow upward in curiosity. What do you think he is going to say? She whispered to Jake, excitement flickering in her eyes like flames in a breeze. Jake swallowed hard. I don't know, but let us hope it's good. The laughter faded abruptly, the cheerful chatter quieting as Uncle Pete cleared his throat. The sound was heavy, weighted with the uncertainty of what was to come. Jake's heart raced at the thought. Could this be the moment they had all been anxiously waiting for? The moment where wounds were finally addressed? Does everyone have a moment? Uncle Pete began, his voice deep and commanding, but with a tremor that hinted at vulnerability. I've got something to share, something important. A collective breath was held. Jake's palms grew clammy as he exchanged nervous glances with Emily, who stood beside him, her eyes wide and full of concern. My life hasn't been all sunshine and roses, Uncle Pete continued. There was an honesty there that made Jake lean in, willing himself to listen. You all know me as the family storyteller, but I've kept some things hidden, secrets that have cast shadows over the good times we've had together. What kind of secrets? Jake's voice slipped out before he could rein it in. Aunt Mary shifted uncomfortably, her hands wringing together, a sign that they were about to breach territory long left untouched. Uncle Pete took a step forward, pushing through the throng of family who remained silent, hanging on his words. Years ago, before many of you were born, I made choices that hurt not just myself but those I loved. I ran from my past, thinking I could escape it. But the truth is, it never really goes away. Jake felt a buzz in his ears, uncertainty gripping him like a vice. He noticed everyone's faces transforming, curiosity mixed with concern, and even anger lurking beneath the surface. It was the revelation everyone hoped to avoid, yet it felt as if it erupted like a volcano waiting to happen. What happened back then? Jake heard himself asking, the question tumbling forth out of sheer desperation for understanding. Nora's grip on his arm tightened. Ached. Uncle Pete locked eyes with Jake, a flash of recognition flickering between them. The choices I made led to a rift in this family. A rift that I deeply regret. He hesitated, inhaling shakily, trying to steady himself. I abandoned your mother when she needed me the most. Gasps rippled through the crowd, each family member processing the gravity of the confession. Jake felt the heat rise to his face, anger battling with betrayal and confusion. Yes, there had always been something shadowy surrounding Uncle Pete, but this was a truth that could tear them apart or, perhaps, finally bind them as they faced the past together. He glanced around, seeking Emily's eyes, needing her support as tumultuous emotions churned within him. What does this mean? He found himself whispering, half to himself. We can't keep pretending, Uncle Pete said softly now, his voice stronger yet still vulnerable. Maybe it's time to heal and confront the shadows. Silence enveloped them like a thick fog, filled with anticipation and questions yet unanswered. Would they even want to heal together? Could they? Jake's heart pounded, unsure of the path ahead. And then, with a sudden flicker, the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. The laughter, the chatter all vanished in an instant. The pulse of dread returned. What now? In the pitch-black room he thought he heard whispers, anxious and filled with fear. Would this be the moment they either embraced the truth, or let it tear them apart for good? The darkness settled in like an unwelcome hush, and Jake couldn't breathe. A few scattered gasps echoed around the room as uncertainty wrapped its cold fingers around the gathered family. Panic had the potential to grip their hearts, but Jake felt something else. A flicker of resolve, a whisper of courage. Suddenly, a voice rang out. Everyone stay calm. We'll get the lights back on. It was Emily, her voice steady and reassuring. A small moment of relief spread through the crowd, and Jake felt a rush of gratitude for her strength. The darkness was overwhelming, but in that moment of silence, it also became an intimate space, shared fears hanging suspended in the air. Jake could almost hear the hearts of his family racing beside him. He moved cautiously, searching for Emily in the shadows. Even in the uncertainty, he could find solace in her presence. Just the thought of her made the tightness in his chest ease. We can get through this, he whispered, though he wasn't sure who he was speaking to, the darkness or to himself. Jake, are you there? Emily's voice broke through the murky silence. I'm here. Are you okay? Yeah, just sticking close. As the minutes dragged on, anticipation tangled with anxiety. In that vast darkness, the reality of Uncle Pete's confession loomed larger than life. Would they have the courage to face whatever past transgressions awaited them? The weight of their family's hidden stories pressed down on him. But beneath the fear lay an ember of hope, a spark that connected them all. A click broke the silence as a flashlight beam flickered to life off to the side. Mary had found her phone, illuminating their small circle. Let us share a story while the lights are out, she suggested, laughter underlying her earnestness. It'll remind us what we're fighting for. Jake marveled at the way Mary always rooted them in love, no matter how deep their issues ran. People shifted around, following her lead. Emily stepped closer, gripping his hand tightly, grounding him against the rising tide of emotions. That he suddenly felt the urge to speak, feeling the flashlight beam flicker like a heartbeat. I remember the treehouse, he began, nudging his voice up enough to carry. It was the craziest and best summer building, that thing. We put everything we had into it, every scrap of wood we could find. We laughed, we argued, But in the end, we made something beautiful. Laughter bubbled up around him, faces illuminated by the small glow. Old stories poured out, voices expressing snippets of joy and camaraderie. Memories wove like threads, drawing them closer to each other, despite the unfamiliar gaps between their histories. Uncle Pete's presence lingered heavy in the corners, but Jake felt hope settle back in, warm and inviting. Even when I left, Uncle Pete's voice echoed from the darkness. I thought of that treehouse often. It reminded me that families are built, not merely bound by blood. And I was wrong to let the distance tear us apart. The crowd hushed again, the gravity of his words hanging thick in the air. A wave of emotion crashed over Jake. They weren't just sharing details, now they were reaching across the fragile divides, leaning into uncertainty with open hearts and compassion. We've all made mistakes, he added, his voice steadying. And it's easy to let those mistakes define us. But we can also choose to build our family up, even from the broken parts. The flickering flashlight illuminated faces reflecting solidarity, each of them connected by their histories and hurt. Faces that had only moments ago been wrapped in shadows now glowed with understanding. Let us use tonight to forgive, someone whispered. To remember that healing is not just about the past, it's about building the future together. Exactly, Emily chimed in, her hand squeezing Jake's even tighter. Let us lift each other up, share those stories, face every single wound of the past. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, their warm glow illuminating puzzled yet hopeful faces as if the universe had drawn them closer in the night's embrace. Laughter erupted, a bubbling chorus welcoming the light. Laughter that signaled a fresh start, a new beginning. Uncle Pete's gaze met Jake's as the lights returned, tears glistening in his eyes. I'm ready to share my story. And as he began to unravel the history of their family beneath its newly illuminated warmth, Jake felt a smile spread across his face. Secrets would come out, but so would powerful truths. Together, they would heal, and their new bonds would redefine love for generations to come. They would not just rise from the forgotten past. They would soar into the future, where laughter and light would guide them home. It was time to embrace the journey forward, to weave a tale of hope, compassion, and unity that echoed in every heart gathered that night. Now, dear friends, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the inspiring stories that come next. Leave a like now to give life to the algorithm. Comment your reactions, insights, and feelings about this incredible ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the love. Only true fans understand the magic of supporting the journey we are all on together.